In the Mexican state of Chiapas, the Lacandon jungle breathes. It is a world of suffocating green, where the guttural cries of howler monkeys echo through a city that once believed itself the center of the universe, Palenque. Its original name was Lacamha, the place of the great waters.
For 1,000 years, the city slept, strangled by a heavy shroud of lianas, moss, and the titanic roots of ceiba trees. Its limestone temples, once painted a brilliant blood red, have weathered to a ghostly gray. Its kings have returned to dust, their histories erased by the relentless rains and the slow march of time. But one secret refused to perish. It lay in wait, entombed in absolute hermetic darkness behind a limestone wall more than a meter thick. For 13 long centuries, it waited for the living to come and breathe its air. And that first breath, when it came, would be laced with poison. It was the spring of 1994. A team of Mexican archaeologists, led by the tireless researcher Arnoldo Gonzalez Cruz, began what was considered a routine excavation. Their objective was Temple 13, a modest, half-collapsed pyramid standing in the shadow of the magnificent Temple of the Inscriptions, the very structure where, in 1952, Alberto Ruz Lullier had uncovered the tomb of the greatest of all Maya rulers, Pakal the Great. No one on Cruz's team expected a revelation. Miracles are rare in modern archaeology. Temple 13 was presumed to be empty, either a minor ritual structure or long since plundered by ancient marauders. But archaeology is a science where intuition and chance often play as great a role as ground-penetrating radar. Pushing through a choke of rubble, mud, and roots, the workers encountered an architectural anomaly, a narrow corridor, deliberately and meticulously packed solid with earth and stone. It was a seal, a sign that its creators never wanted it opened. They had plugged this passage as if to contain something fearsome within, or to guard it from a danger without. Clearing the tunnel was days of punishing labor in 40-degree heat and 98% humidity. Finally, they reached a dead end, a blank limestone wall. Yet it was not bedrock, it was a barrier of man-made masonry, sealed with a mortar that had hardened over the centuries to a strength beyond concrete. A tiny hole was drilled. An optical probe was pushed through. A single beam of light sliced through the darkness of a millennium and revealed the impossible. A chamber, whole and undisturbed. Flanking a central monolithic sarcophagus lay the faint outlines of offerings and skeletons, resting in a silence that had not been broken for 1,300 years. The past was not dead. It had only been holding its breath, waiting for this single, intrusive ray of light to tell its story once more. As the last stone was pried from the masonry, the team stepped across a threshold of time and into a surreal nightmare. The first assault on their senses was not the glint of gold or the gleam of jade. It was the smell. A heavy metallic odor that left a caustic, acrid taste on the tongue, an immediate catch in the throat. In the beams of their flashlights, a scene of impossible color unfolded. The entire chamber, from the stone floor to the vaulted ceiling, was coated in a thick blanket of brilliant red dust. It smothered the sarcophagus. It carpeted the ground. It hung in the air. A crimson fog stirred for the first time in 1,300 years. The explorers began to cough, a dry, hacking sound that echoed in the confined space. A wave of dizziness washed over some. Their eyes began to burn, a searing pain, as if hot sand had been thrown into their faces. They did not yet know it, but they had breached more than a tomb. They had walked into a biological trap. This was not the mystical curse of the pharaohs, whispered about in legend. This was chemistry, ancient, calculated, and utterly unforgiving. The sarcophagus was the immediate focus of their attention, but to approach it was to wade through the scarlet powder. Samples were carefully collected, the crimson dust sealed in sterile containers. Field analysis and later exhaustive laboratory tests in Mexico City would confirm their gravest fears. This was not iron oxide, common rust. It was not ochre, the benign pigment used by ancient peoples for tens of thousands of years to paint cave walls and adorn their bodies.
This was cinnabar, mercury sulfide, the most common ore of mercury and one of nature's most potent toxins. In its solid mineral form, cinnabar is relatively stable, but the Maya had not left it as stone. They had weaponized it. They had painstakingly ground the ore into a microfine, nano-disperse powder, transforming a mineral into an aerosolized poison. In this state, it is lethally dangerous. With every breath, the team was inhaling microscopic particles of mercury. They passed through the lungs, were absorbed into the bloodstream, and began their insidious journey through the body. Mercury is a cumulative neurotoxin. It does not pass through the system. It stays. It builds up in the kidneys, the liver, and, most terrifyingly, in the brain. There, it dismantles the very architecture of the mind. It severs the connections between neurons, inducing tremors, hallucinations, and a slow descent into madness. It is the origin of the Mad Hatter, driven insane by the mercury vapors used in felt production. It leads to organ failure and an agonizing death. The ancient Maya had inundated this tomb with kilograms of the substance. They did not merely sprinkle it over the body in a symbolic gesture. They had drowned the deceased in a sea of mercury. The layer of powder was several centimeters deep. The question is not just how, but why. Herein lies a dual purpose, a chilling synthesis of mysticism and pragmatism. The first reason is one of biological defense. Cinnabar is a powerful antiseptic and preservative. Mercury kills bacteria, fungi, and insects with ruthless efficiency. It halts the process of decay, creating a sterile environment that defies the natural order of decomposition. It was an attempt to grant physical immortality, to protect the vessel of the soul from the ravages of time. But there is a deeper, more profound meaning. For the Maya, the color red was the color of the East, of the rising sun, of birth and rebirth. Cinnabar, with its blood-red hue, was sacred. It symbolized life force, but also the underworld, Xibalba. By encasing this woman of immense power in the very substance of the sacred, they were not just preserving her body, they were dressing her for her journey into the next world, painting her in the color of divine passage. The tomb became both a sanctuary and a weapon, a cradle of eternal life for its occupant, and a promise of certain death for any who would disturb her. It is a monument to a civilization's profound understanding of the natural world, a knowledge so advanced it could turn the very earth into a poison and transform a tomb into a timeless, toxic guardian. It was a quest to conquer time itself. The Maya sought to grant this woman an eternal life, to preserve her flesh by sealing it within a toxic crimson cocoon, a sterile time capsule built to defy the ravages of decay. But this was an act with a dual purpose. A second, more sinister motive was at play: protection. The Maya were intimately familiar with the properties of mercury, wresting its ore from deep within the earth. They had seen how their miners died young, and they weaponized this knowledge. This tomb was a curse made real, a security system that would operate for eternity. Any who dared violate this sacred space, to steal the jade and the pearls, would inhale the Red Death. They would first cough blood, then lose their minds, and finally, they would die. Yet there was a third layer, one of belief and cosmology. For the Maya, red was the color of the East, the direction of the rising sun. It was the color of blood, the very essence of life. By blanketing the body in this vibrant pigment, they were not celebrating death, but masking it. They were providing the soul with fuel for its journey, a visual prayer for resurrection. The operation to open the sarcophagus would become one of the most technically complex and psychologically fraught in the history of Mexican archaeology. The lid, a single slab of stone weighing more than a ton, was raised by hydraulic jacks. The team worked millimeter by agonizing millimeter, terrified of damaging the contents within, but even more so of raising a deadly cloud of mercury dust into the confined, unventilated chamber. The heat was a suffocating physical presence. The archaeologists wore masks, but a primal fear seeped through the skin. Then the moment came. The great stone slab shifted, and the beam of a worklight sliced through the ancient darkness, falling upon a sight that would be seared into memory. The interior of the stone box was not empty. It was filled to the brim with the red powder. It appeared as if the sarcophagus was full of thick, congealed blood, and resting in this scarlet sea was a skeleton. The bones themselves had been utterly transformed. They were no longer white or yellowed by age, but a vibrant, impossible scarlet, almost seeming to glow in the gloom. The cinnabar had permeated the very structure of the calcium, a permanent stain at the molecular level.
Around the skull lay thousands of fragments of green stone, jade, malachite, jadeite, obsidian. It was the ghost of a funerary mask. Time and gravity had destroyed its end, a second glittering skin. The body was literally laden with treasures, arranged in layers of ceremonial wealth. On the head were the remnants of a complex headdress and a diadem fashioned from flat jade discs. Cascading from the neck were heavy necklaces composed of hundreds of beads. Intricate pectorals, ceremonial chest ornaments, rested on the ribcage, while wide bracelets encircled the wrists. In each hand, the skeleton still clutched a small jade figurine and a large, perfectly round pearl. Even the ankles were adorned with bracelets of beads. The sheer opulence of the burial was staggering, rivaling and in some ways even surpassing the tomb of the great Pacal himself. The quantity of jade was immense, the sacred stone of the Maya, valued far more than gold. For gold was simply a metal, but jade was the breath of the earth, the color of life-giving maize. This woman, whoever she was, had been wealthier than many kings. But who was she? Here, the mystery deepened into a maddening silence. The absence of inscriptions on the sarcophagus or the tomb walls drove scholars to distraction. Maya tombs are typically chronicles, their walls covered in glyphs that name the occupant, their lineage, their deeds. But here, there was nothing. They had given her everything for the afterlife, wealth beyond measure, a chemical guardian to watch over her, the very color of rebirth. They gave her everything, except the one thing that would allow us to speak her name. In their quest for her eternity, her identity became an enigma, a silent queen shrouded forever in a sea of red. Within the hallowed stone of Palenque, in a chamber sealed from time, lies a profound silence. Here, the air itself feels ancient, heavy with unspoken histories. The walls are smooth, the sarcophagus unblemished, a vessel of perfect, unnerving purity. An inscription offers a single clue, a whisper from the 7th century. Born on the day 8 Ahau. But the name, the vital link to a life lived, is absent. This void gave birth to a storm of theories. Was this a queen cast down in disgrace, her identity deliberately erased, a ghost expunged from the royal annals? Or was the opposite true? Could her status have been so absolute, so self-evident to her people, that to carve her name upon the stone would have been a profound insult? One does not, after all, label the altar of a chief god. Lacking a name, she was given one by her discoverers, born of the rich crimson pigment that coated her remains. La Reina Roja, the Red Queen. A brand that concealed a mystery, a title that became a mask.
But the skeleton is a book, for those who possess the skill to read its language.
Anthropologists and paleopathologists began the painstaking work of translation. Each bone, a fragile page, was carefully lifted, cleansed of its cinnabar shroud, and placed beneath the microscope's unblinking eye.
The first truth revealed was her sex. The wide, telling curve of the pelvis confirmed she was a woman, and one who had borne children. The second chapter was her age, between 50 and 60 years. In the 7th century Maya world, where life expectancy hovered around 35, this was a deep and venerable old age. She had outlived her contemporaries, a living monument in a world of fleeting lives. Her stature was ordinary for a Maya woman, 154 centimeters, yet tall for the often more gracile nobility.
Then came the skull, and a statement of undeniable power. Her cranium was shaped by an extreme, breathtaking deformation. The forehead swept back at a severe angle, the result of a sacred and exclusive tradition. In infancy, her head had been bound between two wooden boards, gently and persistently reshaping the bone to achieve a divine, elongated profile, an echo of the sacred maize cob, the source of all life. This was the irrefutable mark of the highest royalty. For any commoner to attempt such a transformation was a crime punishable by death. She was, without question, born to rule.
Yet the bones also spoke of suffering.
They revealed a life lived in the shadow of constant pain. Severe osteoporosis had rendered her skeleton brittle, a legacy of age and multiple pregnancies. Chronic sinusitis had inflamed the hollows of her face, a torment of relenter jaw. The life of a queen in the tropical splendor of Palenque was no paradise. It was a daily battle against her. Analysis of her diet confirmed a life of privilege. Her bones were rich with the signatures of animal protein, venison and peccary, and the finest maize. She had known no hunger, no period of youthful want. She was raised in luxury. But the most profound revelation, the detective's final clue, was unearthed from the enamel of her teeth.
We are, in a very real sense, what we eat and drink. The water that flows through different geological regions carries a unique isotopic sihildhood, an indelible geological passport. The test delivered a sensational truth. The Red Queen was not from Palenque. She was an outsider, born and raised in a distant land with different soils and different water. She had arrived in the city as an adolescent or a young woman.
The circle of suspects for her identity shrank to almost nothing. The evidence all pointed in one direction: a political marriage, a dynastic union. She was a foreign princess sent to Palenque to forge an alliance, to bear a royal heir, and to become a queen. The silent tomb, once a symbol of mystery, now tells a story not of disgrace, but of ultimate triumph. A woman who traveled far from home, endured a life of pain, and reigned so completely that her power needed no name. Science had peeled back the crimson mask, not to give us her name, but to restore her story. A testament to how a single human life, unearthed from darkness, can forever change the history of a kingdom.
To fortify an empire, one must first understand its foundations. And to finally unmask the Red Queen of Palenque, science was driven to the very edge of the possible. The challenge was a descent into a molecular labyrinth, guarded by a poison from the earth itself, Cinnabar. The brilliant vermilion powder that had preserved the shape of her bones for centuries had, with cruel irony, annihilated the organic truth within. The mercury at its heart, a potent inhibitor of chemical reactions, became the tomb's final microscopic guardian.
In the laboratory, this ancient element waged a modern war. It blocked polymerase, the crucial enzyme used to copy strands of DNA, rendering the standard polymerase chain reaction utterly useless. The mercury did not merely contaminate the samples,
It actively shattered the genetic code, tearing the delicate rungs of life's ladder apart. The first attempts at analysis ended in catastrophic failure. Sophisticated equipment, assaulted by the sheer toxicity of the samples, went haywire, its sensors overwhelmed. The Queen's secret, it seemed, was chemically locked away forever.
But science does not stand still. Years bled into a decade, and with them came a revolution. Armed with novel methods of purification and the immense power of next-generation sequencing, a new team of researchers returned to the fight. Painstakingly, they filtered away the toxic guardian, molecule by molecule, until, from the chemical wreckage, they managed to coax a few precious, tattered fragments of mitochondrial DNA.
The moment of truth had arrived. These fragments were compared against the DNA of the most famous Maya ruler of all, Kinich Janab Pakal, Pakal the Great, whose own remains were a treasure of science. The question was simple: were they kin? The answer from the depths of the genome was an emphatic, resounding negative. They shared no direct maternal bloodline. This single result obliterated the most prevalent theories. She was not his sister, a union that would have been consistent with the Maya royal practice of incest to preserve the purity of their sacred lineage. Nor could she have been his mother.
With the bonds of blood severed, another path opened, leading from the laboratory to the silent testament of the temple walls. In the historical chronicles of Palenque, carved into the enduring stone of stelae and panels, a name appears beside Pakal's. Ix Tsakbu Ajao, a name that can be translated as Lady of the Succession. The glyphs speak of a princess from a distant city-state, a place nestled in the lowlands of what is now Tabasco, perhaps Tortuguero, perhaps Uxtecu. This ancient story aligned with breathtaking precision to the data from isotopic analysis of her teeth. She was not of the Palenque hills. She had come from the plains. The chronicles state she arrived in the year 626, a foreign bride for a young, ambitious king who desperately needed to strengthen his claim to the throne. Ix Tsakbu Ajah was not merely a wife, she was a strategic pillar of his reign. It was her womb that secured the future, giving Pakal the heirs who would continue his dynasty. Two future kings, Kinich Khan Balam II, builder of the magnificent Temple of the Cross, and Kinich Khan Joy Chitam II. She was the matriarch, the vessel through which the most powerful dynasty of the classic Maya period flowed. And here, the timeline clicks into perfect, chilling alignment. The stone records her death on the 16th of November, 672. Pakal would outlive her by more than 10 years, passing into the underworld in 683. This explains the architecture of their eternal rest. She was buried beside him, shoulder to shoulder for eternity, but in a more modest pyramid, for she had died first, while the grand funerary complex was still under construction. Pakal, in his decade of grief, ensured she would be near. He refused to be parted from her, even in death.
Yet, the story of the Red Queen's tomb does not end in her sarcophagus. We must not forget the two other skeletons found in the antechamber, figures often erased from the popular narrative. They are the key to understanding the drama and the brutal calculus of the Maya world. A woman, approximately 30 years of age, and a boy, no older than 11. Traces of Cinnabar were found on their bones as well, but far less. They were not consecrated with the sacred powder, they were merely marked by it. Their deaths were no accident. It was a cold, calculated act of ritual violence. They were retainers, companions, sent to serve their queen in the next life, a journey that began with their own murder. Their identities are lost, their names unrecorded, their sacrifice a silent footnote to a story of power. They remind us that for every monarch granted an immortal legacy in stone and jade, Others must pay the price in blood and bone, their entire existence reduced to a final, brutal act of devotion.
Within the sealed darkness of the burial chamber, a final, sacred act of violence unfolds. Here, at the foot of the sarcophagus, lie two bodies. The evidence on the woman's skeleton is chillingly precise. Her ribs bear the telltale marks of a chest cavity forced open, the probable excision of the heart with a blade of razor-sharp obsidian. Beside her, a sigh-hole of their own, but were laid directly upon the cold stone.
This act, which our modern sensibilities condemn as an unconscionable brutality, was, for the Maya of the 7th century, a matter of grim and absolute theological necessity. These two souls were not mere victims in the eyes of their contemporaries. They were companions, psychopomps, chosen to serve as an eternal retinue. The Maya believed the journey into the underworld, a realm they called Xibalba, was a perilous and labyrinthine passage, fraught with darkness and demonic trials. A queen, accustomed to a life of service and deference, could not be expected to undertake such an odyssey alone. She required attendants, guides, and protectors.
These two were designated to serve their queen, Ixtzakbu Ajah, in the world of shadows. They would prepare her food, arrange her vestments, carry her burdens, and shield her from the malevolent entities that populated the underworld. Their very life force, their souls, were believed to provide the spiritual sustenance for her journey into eternity. Deoxyribonucleic acid analysis reveals they were not foreign captives, but locals from the Palenque region, perhaps cherished palace servants or high-ranking prisoners taken in a recent war. Whatever their station in life, their destiny was the same. Their existence had become the currency for their mistress's immortality. This knowledge casts a deeper shadow over the scene. The tomb of the Red Queen is not simply a crypt, it is a crime scene, a double homicide frozen for 13 centuries beneath a shroud of toxic crimson cinnabar. Yet it is the Queen herself who commands our attention through the masterpiece of restoration that now serves as her face. When archaeologists first lifted the sarcophagus lid, they found her skull coated in the red poison and covered in a shattered mosaic. Restorers embarked on an almost impossible task, collecting hundreds of minute fragments of green stone. It was a three-dimensional puzzle with no reference image, a painstaking resurrection, piece by microscopic piece. The mask that emerged is profoundly different from that of her famous husband, Pakal the Great. His was crafted from precious jadeite. Hers is made of malachite.
This geological detail is a crucial clue. Malachite is not found anywhere near the Palenque region. It was an exotic import, brought from the distant coasts, or perhaps as far as central Mexico. The stone itself speaks of her power, her status, and her foreign origins. She was an outsider who brought her own traditions, her own wealth, her own sacred materials to the heart of the Maya world.
The eyes of the mask are what hold the modern gaze. They are fashioned from polished black obsidian, with the whites rendered in immaculate white seashell. When one stands before the reconstructed mask in the quiet of the museum, an uncanny sensation arises, a feeling of presence. A trick of the light, a glint on the obsidian's polished curve, creates the total illusion of a wet, living, penetrating stare. It feels as if she is looking back across the chasm of centuries.
For the Maya,
This was no mere funerary ornament. It was a new, transcendent face for the afterlife. They believed that upon death, the flesh decays, and the individual essence, the self, begins to dissolve. The mask, crafted from eternal, incorruptible stone, was a vessel for that identity. It provided the deceased with a new, indestructible persona with which to face the gods, a permanent visage that would not succumb to the chaos of oblivion. In placing this mask upon their dead queen,
The priests and priestesses were not merely burying a monarch. They were performing an act of apotheosis, transforming her into a divine being, Fixin. And yet, a final quiet mystery remains. Tucked inside the sarcophagus, beside the queen's left hand, lay a small, exquisitely carved limestone figurine. It depicts a god, a silent companion on her journey. Its identity and purpose are still debated, a detail that whispers of beliefs and rituals we may never fully comprehend. For in the end, every tomb is a testament not to death, but to the ferocious human refusal to be forgotten.
This is not the face of a simple god of rain or corn. This is the god Kawil, lord of lightning and the living embodiment of royal power. He is the patron of dynasties, the divine source from whom the right to rule flows. He is unmistakable. One of his legs is not a leg at all, but a coiling, living serpent. An effigy of this deity, the very scepter of kings, was found shattered within a tomb. The head was deliberately severed from the body.
The question echoes through the centuries. Why would a king place a broken idol of power into the tomb of his beloved wife, the mother of his heirs? The act is a profound anomaly, a riddle carved in stone and left in a chamber of death. It could be a premonition of a vast political crisis that loomed at the moment of her passing, a portent of brutal encroaching wars with the rival city-states of Tonina or Calakmul. It could be a symbol of a deep and pervasive fear for the future of the kingdom itself.
Or perhaps the reason was far more intimate. Perhaps this was a personal gesture of profound, soul-shattering grief from the great king himself, Kinich Janab Pakal. A symbol that with her death, a part of his own authority, a fragment of his strength, a measure of his light, was fractured beyond repair and had died alongside her. It was a silent admission that without her, his scepter was no longer whole, that she had been the unseen pillar of his reign, and now that pillar had crumbled. This single broken object transforms the dry archaeological record of a dynasty into a raw human drama.
Imagine the scene. The great Pakal, builder of an empire, the architect of Palenque's golden age, standing over the body of his wife. He breathes the toxic, shimmering fumes of mercury released from the cinnabar coating her sarcophagus, risking his own life in the sacred gloom. He then casts the broken god into the tomb, a final, intimate farewell to the partner who had stood by his side for half a century. It is a moment of vulnerability, of shared mortality that has survived for more than 1,000 years. The discovery of this tomb, that of the woman now known as the Red Queen, would shatter long-held beliefs about the role of women in the Maya civilization. For decades, prevailing thought in the mid-20th century had relegated them to the shadows of great kings, as mothers, as vessels for the royal bloodline, but never as powers in their own right. Yet the evidence here screamed otherwise. The sheer scale of her sarcophagus, the breathtaking hoard of jade and shell jewelry, a dedicated temple pyramid built for her alone in the very heart of the city's sacred precinct. And above all, the astonishing quantity of cinnabar, a pigment of lethal beauty, a mercury sulfide so rare it had to be hauled for hundreds of kilometers across treacherous terrain from distant volcanic highlands. This was not the burial of a mere consort. This was the entombment of a co-ruler, a matriarch. Modern science would later confirm what the treasures suggested. Genetic analysis proved that it was her lineage, the blood of Ixtsakbu Ajah, a princess of ancient and powerful blood, that secured the throne for their children and continued to rule Palenque. Pakal was magnificent, reigning for an astonishing 80 years, but it was her blood that granted true legitimacy to his dynasty. Today, the skeleton of the Red Queen has returned home. After long years of study in the laboratories of Mexico City, she rests once more in Palenque,
housed in a special climate-controlled display in the Alberto Ruz Lullier Museum, not far from where she was found. The Cinnabar remains, fused to her bones. It is impossible to remove it completely. It has become a part of her very essence. She is, and will forever be, the Red Queen.
Her discovery is a stark reminder that archaeology is not the clean romance of fiction. It is a dangerous, dirty, and often toxic science. In breathing the dust of ages, we risk inhaling the demons of the past. Quite literally. The Cinnabar in Palenque's tomb is a message whispered across the centuries. Do not touch. This belongs to eternity. It is sacred, and it is dangerous. Asterisk.
Yet we did touch. We broke the seal. And because of the courage, or perhaps the scientific recklessness, of Arnaldo González Cruz and his team, we now know the face of the woman who stood behind the throne of the most powerful king in the Maya world. We know that love, death, and power in the ancient world had a color. And that color was red. The color of blood. The color of kingship. The color of a poisonous and eternal immortality.
The story has drawn to a close, yet a spectral, crimson dust still clings to the jungle canopy. It is a presence unseen, but felt. A silent guardian, watching over the eternal slumber of its queen. One must wonder what other toxic secrets lie dormant within the neighboring green hills, in lands where the archaeologists' spade has yet to break the soil. For the jungle is a jealous keeper of its history. It knows how to conceal its truths, and it knows how to exact a price from those who would unearth them without reverence.